Guess what? I got a Fields Medal and 15,000 Canadian dollars. Judges, can you please help me get a good investment?
Don't worry, Terence, we're on it.
Hi judges, I'm representing gold. It's highly reliable as it's a store value asset and figures have shown it increases in value from 2006 to 2025. The price of gold rose from 2006 to 2008, showing it was vastly unaffected by the 2008 crash, making it very reliable. The 2020 pandemic reinforces this, as it also had a strong surge then as well.
Here are some brief assumptions. Inflation is not a factor to consider separately, as they are already accounted for in the exponential growth part of the models. All currency will be converted at the start in order to avoid exchange rates later on. Assume there is no market crash for our predicted models during the whole 20 years, as it would have been impossible to predict.
Here we have the model for gold based on what you'd assume the price of gold would be by exponential model in 2006. It says that the price of gold in a given year is the starting price times by e to the power of the growth rate times by the amount of years. The problem with a model like this is that the G value is entirely arbitrary. G will probably be made up in real life of inflation, interest, and perceived risk baseline. Our model, we will pick multiple Gs to make up for the fact that we can't really predict a G. We can use historical data to get a baseline of what we might expect it to be. However, before 2006, there was a lot of fluctuation in the price of gold due to the Asian financial crisis, the adoption of MMT theory, and reactionary austerity policies. Following that, however, from 2001 to 2006, it grew heavily by 17% per annum. This is unrealistic to keep up because if it kept up like this for 19 years, it would grow by 25 times. So for this, our model assumes a standard growth rate. We also assume that it constantly compounds, macroeconomic stability, no policy shocks, no transaction cost or storage costs, and investor behavior is constant. This naturally, however, leads to limitations of the model. Firstly, it leaves space for exponential overshoots. It ignores market cycles, no feedback. It's fixed in 2006, and it generally does not take into consideration any actual real-life risk. A real-life model using stochastic calculus and Monte Carlo simulations will not have these flaws. However, based on the tools we have, this is possibly the best model that can be created.
Interesting idea, but that's low risk, and I want high reward. Get that out of it.
Hello Sharks, I believe Terence Tao should invest in cryptocurrency because cryptocurrency, as we know, only makes money. No one has ever lost money in cryptocurrency. It's very, very stable, like the US economy. It's also very, 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 very secure. No one has ever lost their money in cryptocurrency. No one has ever been scammed or rug pulled. So I think he should invest in cryptocurrency because if he's not, then he's a loser.
Actually, I don't think that's true. There's not enough market research for this kind of thing. If I was to invest, I could make money. I could not make money. It's not a very good idea. I don't think that's a good idea. I think that's out. By the way.
Hi, I'm Tag. Judges, this is why I think you should invest. Over the last few decades, tech has reached greater and greater levels every year. Using this tech 38 years ago, NASA put man on the moon. Next year, Apple will put the same capacity of processor into your pocket. Tech has less pretension with constant innovation. It has low risk and extremely high rewards. For the highest payout, I think you should then switch from Apple to Tesla in 2010, as Tesla has an overall higher profit than Apple, as you can see from these charts.
Even though Apple did not demonstrate a fairly high percentage of stock returns in 2006, the release of its first iPhone in the following year led to a considerable increase in returns. Apple's performance declined to a negative level during the 2008 financial crisis. However, the company recovered rapidly in 2009 due to the implementation of new strategies and continued innovation. In contrast, Tesla launched its public share in 2010. Investing at that time would have led to very high rewards. However, this is only evident in hindsight. As Tesla was only beginning to gain momentum in 2010, Professor Tao may have been cautious about investing. Despite this, Tesla was already a well-recognized company, so investing during that period was a possible consideration. By using the average exchange rate in 2006 and deducting the conversion fee, Professor Tao could finally obtain approximately £3,750,000.
Similar to gold, we have model tech with an exponential model with essentially the same components. However, tech being an innovative industry, it is very hard to predict a G value that is constant. Therefore, for the graphs, we take three drastically different values, and as you can see, they have varying results. The assumptions and limitations are relatively similar to that of gold, however, there's a few more. For example, to measure tech as a whole, we have chosen an XLK model, which technically does not represent the entirety of tech, but is the best that can be done. We also assume reinvested earnings, no new entrants or market saturation effects, no structural shocks, and we ignore fees and taxes. The limitations are also quite similar, with the lack of risk being modeled, and also it is much different here as you cannot predict things like AI or cloud or mobile computing, which heavily changed the way tech is.
You know, I think that's a really good option. It does seem to have quite a few rewards. You know what? I'm gonna hit the golden buzzer.
While we have concluded that tech is the best singular asset to invest in, having a diverse portfolio split across many different sectors is vital, as it greatly reduces the risk involved with investing, as our potential losses will be reduced, so we are more likely to make an